the allocation. It's been moved, it's been seconded. Conversation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, short adopted. Thank you, PK. All right. The next item.
Item 8P2.
Vice Chair, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if the attorney can just read a motion that I have on the record. The amendment.
Vice Chairman Rodriguez moves to amend item 8P2 to change the lead county department administering the contract with RedSpeed Georgia LLC for the installation and operation of an automated speed detection and enforcement system at school zones from the Miami-Dade Police Department to the Department of Transportation and Public Works. DTPW will work in coordination with other county departments, including MDPD and ITD, in administering the contract, and will take on the responsibilities of the lead county user department in place of MDPD. All references to MDPD in the mayor's memorandum as the lead department will be replaced with DTPW. And the resolution, section 1, is amended to read as follows. This board approves the access of contract number 20-103 speed detection camera system for school zones with RedSpeed Georgia LLC for the Department of Transportation and Public Works, and a total amount estimated to be $215 million for the 6-year term. Conforming changes will be made to the title of the resolution to identify DTPW as the lead user department.
Thank you. And it is pooled by district. Commissioner from the 13th district, the 7th district, and the 5th district. Do anybody wish to speak on it, or is it just for voting purposes?
I do have a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Senator, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know this is a well-intentioned bill, and I don't doubt that we need it. And you're talking to someone who fought against red light cameras for many years in the legislature, because I did think it was an invasion of privacy. However, I do realize that this privacy battle I've lost. Big way of it. I've lost it because we've given up our privacy to the government and to public domains like social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and whatnot. But I do, however, knowing that I've lost that battle, the one battle that I still want to tend to fight is the one of this piggybacking contract and so forth. If I can have Namita, if you can please come up, and I have a couple of questions for you as to the value of this contract that is going out without doing, it's pretty much as a sole source contract that's going out. And they just said it was a $250 million contract for 6 years. How much is a vendor looking to make off this contract right off the bat without it going to an RFP?
Through the chair, Namita Uppal, Chief Procurement Officer. Senator, the values that are listed in the contract are projected values based on how City of Alpharetta's contract was structured. Obviously, the whole intent behind this contract is to make sure the safety of the kids, and the idea is people's behavior. Is it really the safety of the kids, or is it really the value of this contract? Because $250 million without going to an RFP is extensive. I'm sorry. Go ahead. So the idea was the safety of the kids, and I know with the cameras installed, hope is the people's behavior would change. So really, it's hard to articulate the value because it's based on the number of tickets that are going to be cited. So we just took the value how city awarded their contract and extrapolate to 206 zones. Based on that, the projected revenue to the vendor is $71 million approximately, as itemized in the item.
Namita, when we look at the contract in Georgia that we're piggybacking on, is it a comparable contract, a comparable city to that of Miami-Dade County?
So City of Alpharetta implemented the system for 6 zones. Obviously, Miami-Dade County is a large county, and we have about 206 zones here that we are using the contract for.
How many residents do you know that live in Alpharetta?
I don't know the answer, sir.
So I would think it's a little less than 3 million people live in Miami-Dade County.
Yes.
Just a little bit less.
Yes.
When we look at the equipment, where's this company based?
Illinois.
Illinois. Are there any Florida-based companies that can participate in this?
Through our research, there are companies out there. They're also competed for the city contract and other entities' contract. I don't know if they have the address in Florida, but Vera Mobility and Census America. There are 3 main competitors in this space.
I mean, And are there other cities in the state of Florida that have these?
My understanding is like Village of Pinecrest and other cities, and even Miami-Dade County are implementing.
Commissioner Regalado said I interrupt her more than I interrupt other people, and she pointed out that you've been going on for a while.
Oh, okay, 'cause
So
she
I was
wants to- you
just
have some questions
yeah,
yourself?
I was just interrupting
okay.
you for Commissioner Regalado. Consider yourself interrupted.
But Mr. Chairman, it's short. Mr. Chairman, it's brief. It's really quickly.
Really, it's 50 minutes. It's really going to be quick. It's going to be quick. It's going to be quick. And 3 years later, yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Look, again, Madam Mayor, I know this is going to come to your desk, and it goes to the point. I know Commissioner Hardeman was talking about we shouldn't demonize the piggybacking. I know when we piggyback, it's important, but for some issues, but this in itself, there's no reason to rush this along. I have some really concerns that we are piggybacking on a contract that is much smaller in jurisdiction than what we have here in this county. Do we normally do that? I thought we would, when we piggyback on contracts, it had to be something of a comparable size.
In general, yes, we look at the comparable contracts, but this we are recommending this based on the board adopted resolution. There was a directive from the board to piggyback.
Yes, but the mayor has the ultimate when it goes to her desk. This is why she's here, and I'm asking her the question. Madam Mayor, you feel comfortable with this piggybacking of a contract?
I understand that behind the question, if I may, through the chair, is that we're dealing with a company that might not have the same experience for a large venue as ours. I think the question really is the technology, and if maybe we could hear from procurement director about that.
So, Senator, you're absolutely right. We generally look at the comparability of the contract, but if it's any consolation, when we did the research, there are 3 main companies in this space, and all three companies offer different models for structuring the contract. I think the model that RedSpeed has adopted in terms of no cost to the agency, they're bearing the entire upfront cost and sharing, and if the tickets are generated, both parties share the portion of that ticket. I think that's the most common model that we're seeing, and most prevalent because we don't have to invest in any technology, while the other companies also charge a lot for technologies. So I think from that point of view, we do feel comfortable.
Okay. Again, I'll leave it up to, I'll pass it on to Commissioner Regalado. I mean, if it's up to the chair, whatever, the chair decides.
Commissioner Regalado, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I voted against this in committee and also in first reading. There's a lot of reasons that I think we should hit the pause on this. I think Commissioner Garcia has brought up some good points. I also, caution you all. I also dealt with red light cameras at the City of Miami for a very, very, very long time. And once you go down this road, it's very, very hard to undo it. That being said, this impacts the school district. The school district should be participating in this, and they're not. The funds should go to the school district at some point, whether it's in the form of adding more personnel around the schools. There are many schools in Miami-Dade County that do not have crossing guards because they do not have funding. That funding is done by the county if it's unincorporated, or if it's done by the city. There are also a lot of schools that do not have the funding to fix their queue, which is the traffic at the drop-off and pickup site. And finally, after Parkland, we needed at the school district side to change school zones, because after Parkland, for those of you who were in Tallahassee, you remember, we had a dramatic change that you can only go in and out of a school through one entrance, but the school zones stayed the same. So I think there needs to be a broader conversation about how school zones work. how these tickets are going to work, where kids are coming in and out, what's the difference between a high school and a middle school and an elementary school. Schools that have invested in putting their queue inside the school, schools that have the queue outside and it impacts traffic. So it's a very complex situation, and what I will warn you about this is that you're going to have a lot of angry people, and we still have not seen the evidence that this is really necessary. I think this is more a solution looking for a problem. If you want to have this conversation, bring in the school district, bring in Safe Streets, bring in the University of Miami. They do this work. They do Bike Safe. They do Walk Safe. There's a lot of people that are doing this work. The TPO does this work under a committee where we talk about pedestrian and cyclist safety, and we focus on schools. I've been doing this work as a school board member and then also as a county commissioner. We're working on bike lanes around certain schools. So I'm not saying that absolutely it would not be needed in some places, but I think this blanket decision to do it in this manner is going to be challenging for everyone involved, and it's going to be very difficult for us to roll back.
Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's important that we all get clear on the item and the numbers and how things are being allocated, because the $215 million, just to be clear, if Namita is still here, is not $215 million that the county is responsible for paying, correct?
Through the chair, you're right. We're not paying for any technology or system. The company is going to bear the cost for the entire system. What we're representing in the item is the projected revenue that could be generated based on the number of tickets.
And in the item, it says here the county would not necessarily retain 144 million, as House Bill 657 indicates that the county will retain $60 to administer speed detection systems in school zones and other public safety initiatives, and will remit $40 to entities as follows: $20 to the Department of Revenue for deposit into the General Revenue Fund, $12 to the school district for school safety and security initiatives, student transportation or safety of student walking conditions, $5 to the county or municipality for the school guard recruitment and retention program. So of the funds generated from these tickets that are being cited in order to protect our children in school zones where the law is that you're supposed to be driving 15 miles an hour, these funds are going to get distributed as outlined in the item, some of which are going to the school board, correct?
Yes, these were itemized in the House bill.
Okay, and I'm assuming this was publicly noticed. I know that it was because it came before us previously. We've certainly had plenty of opportunity for the public to speak and to be heard. Has the school board articulated either in writing or before this body any objection or any interest in having anything different than what's before us today?
I would not know that. I did not. In my team, we didn't hear anything. I don't know if police heard any objection from that.
Yeah, neither have I. Thank you so much. Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Bermudez.
I just have a couple questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My understanding, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, there was about 3,000 violations last year for school zone. Correct? Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. The placement of the discussion on important things like the placement of the cameras. If this is going to be at the beginning of the school zone, there's a very good chance many people will be cited because people usually see that and then it starts slowing down. So has there been any discussion as to where they're going to place these cameras in these school detection zones?
Tom Buchanan, once again, through the chair. Yes, sir. Once before a camera is installed, a study will be conducted. The company will have to go out, do a speed study, and determine that a camera is needed in that particular school zone. If statistics show that that's the case, then they will move forward. There's a public education and awareness campaign that's in the bill as well that must be completed prior to issuing citations. My recommendation is that we shouldn't go with the minimum that's required, but we should have more. We should do a lot of public awareness. We do that before we write tickets at the beginning of the year. Officers go out and we issue warnings, and we try to educate the public at the beginning of the school year that this is going on. So that is required. I would just say we should do more of that.
Okay, and I guess, Tom, another question I would have for you would be, at what speed over the designated speed limit would these tickets be issued? I think when we talked about it in the first reading, it was about 27, but I don't know if that's correct.
What I heard, the latest I heard was 11 miles over the posted speed limit, which would be 15 miles an hour.
Okay, so it'd be about 26. And then will non-payment, because my guess is a lot of people are going to be cited for this. By the way, I have been supportive, unlike Senator Garcia, of red light cameras because I think they do work in certain places. But having said that, this is going to lead to a lot of citations that probably will not get paid when people get this in the mail. Is this going to lead to driver license suspensions? We already have, and I know Commissioner Higgins, this is near and dear to her heart, a lot of citations that people end up with suspended licenses, don't know about it. So will this lead to suspended driver's license?
No, my understanding, it's a civil citation. The citation goes to the owner of the vehicle, similar to the red light camera. So it doesn't actually even go to the driver. It's the registered owner.
Okay, so that's part of the point. So it could be a different driver, but a registered owner, but a different driver.
That's correct.
Okay, and then, yeah, that's concerning. I'm coming from a due process perspective here. How much time, will people be able to pay? Will have to pay this citation? Have we talked about that yet? Have we decided?
I don't have the timeline. I know all of that. All the details of it are laid out in the bill and in the process, but I'm not familiar with the whole process.
And do these cameras get routinely tested for accuracy, or?
Yes, they do.
Okay. How do we? This may be more for Namita than for you, Tom. But how do we get to that 144 million? Do we know?
Through the chair, again, it's hard to predict what the county could generate. So all we did was looked at the math from City of Alpharetta. How much did they generate in a 1-year period for the 6 zones, assuming the same traffic patterns and same general behavior? How much is this is going to be number of tickets and how much the revenue could be based on 206 zones that we have. So 6 zones revenue for 1 year and 206. A simple math because it's hard to predict the traffic patterns, behavior. So that's what we did.
And then this is for you, probably, Namita. Just one of the concerns that I have is similar to Senator Garcia, but not for the same reason, because I think we lost our privacy a long time ago when the state started, tolling us as we drive down state roads. But are there any other resolutions or from this or an ordinance from this body that may make reference to where these cameras are made? And it's because who gets the technology in the end is really very important, at least to me, seeing some of the things that are happening nationally. So I'm curious if you looked into that before.
So the Florida DOT actually on December 28th released the guidance and the specifications. And I know there are laws that the cameras cannot be made in certain countries. The technology cannot be from certain countries. So all of that is going to be, once the company starts implementing, all of that is going to be, they have to make sure they comply with the FDOT requirements, they comply with all of the state and the federal and local requirements, which we also have a requirement that certain technologies and cybersecurity features cannot be from, there's a list of countries. So we'll make sure that they comply with it.
So if there's a resolution from this body that makes reference to a specific country where this technology is made, then I guess we'd have to go back to the drawing board. Is that correct?
Yes, but so yes, it's not the drawing board, but the architecture nowadays is, one is a software system, which they already have, and the hardware, it's the camera system. So there are a lot of companies that provide cameras. So I don't think we have to go to drawing board. We just have to make sure the company follows all the requirements.
All right, I guess the last question, Tom, you mentioned that you're saying that it won't be, the company will study the areas where it's needed as opposed to necessarily putting them everywhere. Is that correct? Did I understand you correctly on that?
There's an ordinance also adopted by the board that lists the 206 zones where this system is going to be installed. So that was adopted by the board in September or October.
Okay, so I got it. So, but then I misunderstood.
Well, my understanding was that they would do a study because the company doesn't want to put cameras there because they have a big investment, putting the equipment there if they're not going to be effective. So the company is going to do a study, and then if it determines there is a need there, then they would place the cameras. But my understanding is they're not just going to blanket go out and do every school. If there's a problem in every school zone, then yes, but there is a study that would be conducted.
That's different than putting them in every 206 spots. So, okay, look, in general, I voted for this the first time. I'm not extremely convinced yet that the due process will be done correctly, and I want to make sure that that does occur. I do have concerns with where our technology goes, and I'm going to stick to that. So I hope, Namita, you're going to be able to answer that question a little bit more explicitly, or let's call it clearly, when whatever approval comes back. And I'm certainly, concerned with the suspension of licenses. So I'm assuming this is going to be discussed with the mayor's negotiations with the company. Is that correct? Or during the process of the negotiations?
Yeah.
So this is the award of the contract. So the House bill dictates the process very detailed. So we have to make sure we follow the House bill, and the company has to follow the House bill. What's going to happen when the citation is issued, how it's get paid, and all that process is laid out.
Okay. All right. That's it.
Thank you. Before I go to my colleagues on the left here, Carrera and then Higgins, I just want to point out that I actually drive my son to school in the morning, and I see people speeding. And so the numbers that you all list are staggering, but let's be clear, it's being paid by people who are going 26 miles an hour in a school zone. This is an incredible conversation right now for me. Because I see our kids, and our kids are wonderful, they have wonderful hearts, but they don't follow traffic. They don't cross in crosswalks. They cross at the beginning of the school zone, the middle of the school zone, the end of the school, every place but the crosswalk. It's not someone that's going 16 or 17 or 20, it's 26. Have you seen what a car going 26 miles an hour does to a child? This is an incredible conversation. The millions of dollars are being paid for by people who won't slow down for our children. This is amazing. This is, and so that we're clear, you've never had a legally acknowledged expectation of privacy on the street. And all the lawyers on this board know that. So I hear these things, but this isn't real because we're talking about people who won't slow down for my child. Every day. I see them every day. There's not enough police officers to catch all of them. So we can actually use technology to stop them and deter it, or we can pay the extraordinary cost of an officer to put them there. Those are your options if you want them to be safer. The average cost to get a new officer, put them in uniform, train them, somewhere north of $100,000. So we want to charge the taxpayers, not the people who are actually speeding. That's the argument. Got it. You're recognized, Cabrera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I echo your sentiment. What is a child's life worth to you? Because we're debating up here the cost of a child's life. It seems to me that it's more important to allow people to speed to a school zone than to make sure we don't have any children that are dying, or at least reduce it. It's been said that this was a piggyback, that it's not an RFP. There was an RFP. There were 7 RFPs in Georgia that were won by this company. A piggyback is something that was created by the state so that we can make sure that we expedite procurement, because as we know, our procurement here could take a very long time. How many kids are we going to allow to die as we go through the bureaucracy here of doing another procurement. It'll be 2 years. Look at the airport hotel. It was supposed to be 90 days. It took like 3 years. So again, one of the areas in Georgia, my understanding is over 100 locations. And there's 7. There's 7. All 7 went to the same company. So clearly they must be doing something right. In terms of where the fund goes, my understanding is $12 go to the school district and $5 go to cross guards. So it's not, it's going to the proper places to make sure that again, the kids are safe. And what you got to be asking yourself is, are we going to put a price on a child's life? Is that what you want to do here today?
Commissioner Higgins.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I pulled this item, similarly to at the beginning. We've used piggybacks in this county before when they made sense, but I think Senator Garcia, you made all of the comments and asked the questions that I would like to make on this. So respectfully, I will be voting no based on process, because I do think this could have been competitively procured. I would like from the county attorney's office to get confirmation that this would result in a civil citation versus, particularly for a first offense, versus putting people on the path of losing their license. The clerk's office, along with the state attorney and the public defender, have been doing a really good job at trying to make sure we're minimizing suspended licenses, particularly for low-income individuals. And I'm not saying people should, they should be getting in a little bit of trouble when they're speeding in a school zone. But can someone give me confirmation of that from the county? I mean, I realize that our assistant director said there was civil citation, but I'd like to have an attorney confirm that.
Commissioner, so these would be notices of violation issued pursuant to state law, pursuant to Chapter 316.
What does that mean in English, please?
So if unpaid, they may turn into uniform traffic citations, which, if unpaid, may lead to the suspension of a license.
So it's not a civil citation?
No, Commissioner.
Okay, so that information we received on that was incorrect. It's a regular old, just like if the police pulled you over, correct?
I'm so sorry, Commissioner. Could you repeat that question?
I just want to know, somebody speeds, they've done a bad thing. They're going to get a ticket sent to the mail from this private company, and we were told it's a civil citation. What is it? Is it a civil citation?
It's a speeding ticket.
Okay, so the information we were told previously, colleagues, was incorrect. It's not a civil citation, so I just want to put that on the record. Anyway, I don't need to litigate this anymore, but I will respectfully be voting no. Thank you.
Senator Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have 2 more questions, and then I'll end it up. But I do want to ask our county attorneys, a little confused then as to why this doesn't need a supermajority. Can you explain to me why does it need a supermajority when it's a sole source contract?
Senator, just let me interrupt, and I'll let the attorneys answer that question, but this is not a sole source contract, and we need to get away from saying that word. This is a legal process, which is a piggyback process. If members of this board have an issue with that process, we can revisit that process by bringing an item to this board or the legal process. But this is a legal process that we're not establishing new precedents here today. This is something that we do often. This body has done often for decades. So if there's an issue with the piggyback process, let's revisit it. But it's not a sole source. So continue with your question, but just, and Doug Hanks in the audience somewhere, this is not a sole source contract. Okay? Because you quoted that in your article. This is not a sole source contract. It is not. It is a piggyback contract. A legal process, guys. And yes, I echo the chairman's sentiments that I do not want to wait 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years, as Cabrera mentioned, for a new procurement when we meet all the same procurement standards that Georgia put out in 7 occasions. And this same entity, the same company won all 7 of these contracts. So, and by the way, Chairman, to your point of a child's life, one just passed away last month in your district, walking to school. So yes, there is a sense of urgency on this item. There is. If I can pass an item, if this body can pass an item that will save one single life for the rest of my existence, this item was well worth it for me. It is not costing us a penny. The idea is not to generate revenue here. The idea is that we generate $0. Because if we're generating $0, that means that everybody has gotten educated and people slow down when they're going through school zones. If you are breaking the law, there needs to be penalties. You are breaking the law if you are going 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. In fact, the only question that anybody on this day should probably be asking is, why are we giving a 10 mile per hour buffer? Why is it at the 15 miles per hour? Why are we encouraging violators to break the law and go 10 miles per hour over it? That's the only question this body should be raising.
Wait.
Wait. Senator Garcia is still asking questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman. Then on that, I'll take that. I'll take that, but I'll ask you then on the Namita, on the contract itself. If this is a piggyback contract, are the details of the contract exactly the same? Is there any changes to this contract? Because my understanding then is, if a piggyback contract is a piggyback contract, it should be the same terms and conditions. Am I correct?
That is correct. So obviously the contract is from Georgia, and they do have to comply with FDOT requirements here in Miami-Dade, in the state of Florida. The percentage that we have in the contract is exactly the same. That the key difference here is the 6 zones and the 206 zones.
So then in itself it's not the same.
Well,
We're adding more zones.
So we're adding more zones.
we're adding more zones, correct?
So then it's not a piggyback contract. Then we're changing the scope of the contract.
Thank you.
Let the attorney.
Attorneys?
We were accessing a competitively procured contract from the City of Alpharetta, Georgia. The City of Alpharetta, Georgia contract does allow for the addition of additional locations, to add locations, so we are piggybacking. So that, yes, the City of Alpharetta had a certain amount of locations, but that contract also allows for the county or the city government to add more locations.
But that's city government. But anyway, look, that's all you'll have to resolve, because that's be for the legal attorneys to resolve that, because then that means that the city of Georgia, that city is the one that can expand it, not us. But it's up to you guys to decide that. Now, I do want to make a comment about the reality about the children versus the price that we're talking about. I don't think anyone on this board, I think it's insulting to make a comment to say that any of us in this board don't care about children. Because every single one of us, I know most of us for a very long time, and a lot of us have dedicated our time to helping children in our respective communities, in our state, and in our districts. For anyone to imply that this is about children versus safety, I think it's wrong. Because the reality is that while we want people to slow down for children, this board wants to accelerate a $250 million contract to one vendor without going out to an RFP. That in itself should be insulting to the public, and making sure that we talk about big game, Madam Mayor, we talk about big game here about transparency and making sure that people have an opportunity to bid. This is the same reason why people don't, other vendors in this state, in this county, don't bid, because of issues like this. This is a $240 million contract. Granted, it's not coming out of our coffers. But at the end of the day, someone's making this money. And I think it's important to make sure that we have transparency. If we all believe in that, then let's argue that point and make sure we have it at every point of our procurement process. So I, too, will be voting against this because of those issues. So now I'll leave it at that. But I think we can do a better job at procurement in this county, and I think we need to start doing that now.
Commissioner Hardiman.
We say buzzwords like transparency, so I'm voting against this. We say buzzwords like procurement, so I'm voting against this. We say buzzwords like safety, so I'm voting against this. We have to be serious about the terms that we use and when we choose to use them. This is a item that is on the agenda of the Board of County Commissioners. It doesn't get any more public than that. any more public than that. Commissioner Cabrera spoke on the record and said that piggybacking is a legally allowed process in the state of Florida that we use. In fact, we use it in other states. I think I said that earlier, right? What it does is it saves money to our taxpayers and also gives us the time, allows us to save time in order for us to make a certain procurement process, a certain allocation, a certain purchase, or whatever it may be. Now, it's disingenuous for any of us to say that that is not something that is what it is. Like we all know that that is the truth. And anyone who's in the public who's watching this should know that piggybacking is a way of doing business in the United States of America, and all of our municipalities do it. And in fact, if the city in Georgia has the right to expand for more sites, then we have the right to expand for more sites. We stand in the shoes of that place. It's as if we did it ourselves. It's like your big brother growing up, bumping his head and then telling you, hey, don't go that way, because if you go that way, you're going to bump your head. Right? It is a legally responsible thing for us to do, to piggyback. But when we say things like safety, and then we don't enact any safety measures, we do the same thing. We do it all. I'll give you an example. People keep dying on the bridge when they're riding their bicycle because it's a bicycle versus a motorist. We get upset on this board. We say, oh, we should have pedestrian safety measures installed on that bridge. We do a little dance here or there. We say it's safe, and then another person dies. And then we come back again and we say, oh, we should have more pedestrian safety or bicyclist safety for people who are traveling over this certain bridge in Miami-Dade County. Instead of just saying, you know what, maybe we shouldn't have bicyclists on that bridge. Maybe that's not the safest space for us, so we should restrict bicyclists from being there because it is a bridge meant for vehicular traffic. So in this case, we're saying, hey, people are speeding through the speed zone, and children could possibly be hit, right? So what can we do to keep children from being struck by cars? Well, we can either hire additional police officers to be there. That's what was one of the arguments. So yeah, we get one guy. I got you. You were speeding. And as I'm writing you this citation for you speeding, another 25 people come through the speed zone speeding. By the way, that costs us, the taxpayers, $100,000 through the training, plus the thousands of dollars for them every year. And God forbid they get sick, they don't show up, they get reassigned, a number of different things. But in this sort of circumstance, we have technology that will actually deter people by issuing them citations if they in fact break the speed limit. We all know that I practice criminal defense law, right? And I get there when my job comes when I'm hired on a job, that's my job at that time. I could very well end up defending somebody who has been issued a ticket or something of that nature. But the point being is this. I can't think of any better reason other than some very serious things that someone should have their privileges of driving taken from them. If my child was driving, my child was 16 years old, they were driving through a speed limit area in a school zone, I would take his driving privileges from him. You can't drive this car because you can't observe simple rules to keep people safe. So in this circumstance, people are driving way above the speed limit. Why wouldn't you suspend their driving privileges? That's what driving privileges is all about. When you violate laws, we take them from you. When you get it together, we give them back. Now, there's some people who can't pay, and that's a whole different issue, and we have avenues for that. The public defender's office, the state attorney's office, all of them have made access to people available, and they can't pay, and they can find their ways out of their suspension. People's driving privileges, and this is very controversial for many, are suspended because they can't pay child support, which I think is backwards, because now if you can't pay child support, and if you take my driving privileges, I really may not be able to get a job and pay child support, but that's a whole other subject. This subject is about safety. It's not about transparency. This is as transparent as it gets. It's not about anything more than ensuring that our children have better opportunities of success when it comes to crossing the streets and the byways in our community. And if we can do that without spending any money, without us ourselves in Miami-Dade County installing the technology, someone else doing it for us, without having to go through a procurement. You talked about the airport, you have pull a scab off of a healing wound, because I mean, when you think about those sort of procurements through these processes and what we've gone through, it is insane, and we still don't have the product to offer a better service or a better product to our community. So in this circumstance, I just ask, if you're listening to me, colleagues, make a decision based on what's right. If you want to later on, I'm sure in this contract you can like we did in red light cameras. I know you don't like red light cameras, but like in red light cameras, you were able to repeal it. You were able to pull back out of that and say, maybe this isn't the best idea. Some places still have it, so they still believe in that sort of technology. But yeah, I think Mr. Vice Chairman, you hit the nail on the head. This is our first public safety real true item of this year. I can't think of another one that, and why it draws up controversy, because we're using the procurement process that the state of Florida says that we can use. This isn't about procurement. No one's going to bring about any procurement item that says get rid of piggybacking. And if they did, they're just doing it for political theater, because they know that piggybacking is a tool that we use to ensure that we don't waste the people's money. And this doesn't waste a dime of the people's money. What is wasting is our time having to make these arguments. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Gonzalez.
I just want to clarify some misconceptions, because I keep hearing red light cameras, and I am against red light cameras. I know that the prime sponsor of this item fought hard to repeal red light cameras at the state level, and I know that this is, what we're doing here is actually based on a state statute. It's based on state law, House Bill 657. I have very few questions. If you get one of these tickets, will you get points on your license? Do you get points on your license if you get one of these tickets?
No.
You don't. Is this going to affect your insurance in any way? Does your insurance go up if you get one of these tickets?
Commissioner, answer both questions. House Bill 657 has expressed language that these violations will not lead to points or to increase in insurance rates.
One question for Namita. What is the benefit of using the legal avenue of a piggyback in this specific instance?
Through the chair, this is not the only contract. We piggyback on several other contracts. The whole idea is, if there is a contract out there that is competitively awarded by another city or county or state or federal government, all the counties and cities, agencies like ours, we piggyback, use the results of that competition and award a contract on our own. But it's strictly based on the competition conducted by that city or agency. And it expedites the process here, starting from the scratch to all the way to the award. Of course, everybody knows it takes longer. So here we're using the results of the competition and awarding a contract in an expeditious manner.
To implement it sooner?
Yes.
Now, another question. Are these cameras, because everybody keeps saying red light cameras, are these cameras going to be operating 24 hours a day and giving people tickets 24 hours a day for going 11 miles over the speed limit in a school zone?
Oh, sir, my understanding is that it'll be a half hour before the school zone starts and a half hour afterwards.
So only
operational.
Would that specific timing be when kids would be in danger of crossing?
Yes, each school would have a different time, so the vendor and Public Works would have to make sure that the cameras are operating in the time frame of each individual school zone.
Is there a process? Is there a process in place in order to fight one of these tickets? Like if you get one of these citations, can you fight it?
Yes, my understanding is that is part of the process as well.
I guess I have one more question for the mover, the prime sponsor of the item. How is this different from red light cameras?
Commissioner, red light cameras is a complete different system and technology. This is not verifying if you're making a wrong turn, if you're taking a red light. This is solely looking at the speed that you're conducting in this school zone. So, and again, we're putting this buffer because the idea of the buffer, so the answer to my hypothetical question of why are we giving that 10 mile per hour buffer is we're not trying to burden our community. We're trying to educate our community and have them react as they approach these school zones and say, hey, I know that this technology exists, let me slow down. Or, I know that this technology exists, I've been caught before, let me not let it happen again and slow down, and resulting in potentially saving a life.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. And as I understand, because I met with this company, in the contract it states that we need to provide a marketing campaign in order to let folks know that this is going to be happening, because we don't want to provide a burden for the community. Can I get, I don't know if Namita can attest to that. Is that in the contract, Namita?
Yes, Commissioner, it is. As required by the House bill, we have to conduct a campaign before the program is launched.
So what is this campaign going to be doing again?
Educating people and notifying them up front where the cameras are installed, and be cautious. And of course, we're going to work, the department is going to work with the company to come up with what are the best ways to educate the people.
Will it let them know what hours they will potentially get a ticket if they speed in school zones?
I'm sure it will, because this is only for when there are school days and around the time when the school zones are to be enforced.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
So the days the schools are closed, this is not going to cite tickets. It's only on the school days and around the time, like the morning time or the afternoon, when they're pickup and drop-offs. So all of that's going to be programmed in the system, as well as the people are going to be notified.
Namita, can I just say that clearer for the Commissioner? School zones aren't just a matter of geography, they're a matter of geography and time. So it's a specific geographic area for a specific time period.
Yes.
So it's not just the area in front of a school. So one of the primary differences between this and the red light cameras operate continuously all time in that area all the time. A school zone, just during those school periods, from weekends, holidays, out during the day, but outside of the school zone, you wouldn't be able to get a ticket for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there going to be signs letting people know?
I have to check the House bill. I think, I don't have the answer, but I have to check the House bill. So all the requirements are laid out in the House bill.
Yes, there will be signage, and my understanding is there'll be flashing lights as well. Not all of our school zones have flashing lights, but the vendor says they will install lights in all the school zones, and if there's any deficiencies in signage, they advise they will upgrade that as well.
So flashing lights, signage, marketing campaign, letting people know not to speed 11 miles over the speed limit in a school zone only during school time. Is that correct?
That's correct. The 11 miles, I don't know if that's
not to speed. We're not telling them they have an 11 mile.
11 miles over, so no, 26 miles.
We're not giving them the mileage. We're not giving them the buffer. We're telling them not to speed.
Right, that's correct.
Got you.
Because really, we don't want them to go 25 to avoid a ticket, but still speed in the school zone.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, then they can still get a ticket from a police officer, mind you, anything over 15. But we're not telling them, we're not giving them the buffer in the
that makes sense.
Advertisement. Okay, thank you.
That's all.
Okay, we have two more comments on this. You said this is short.
It's short. First of all, let me say three things. I voted for this item the first time. I'm going to vote for it again because of the safety issue. But, you know, I also drive my daughter to school every morning. I also understand that pedestrians, when they're crossing, when there is a regular red light, or vehicles that get hit, we just had a commissioner who was in a very bad accident, also can die from people taking red lights, not just children. So I want to be clear that my questions are based on, and I understand Commissioner Hardiman's, and he's correct, that this is a system that's been used, so I'm not questioning the system per se, but I am questioning the due process aspect of it, because I think it is important. I think it is important that people know that if their license is suspended, that there is a process, and if their license is suspended, it could be suspended, which is what the attorney answered. Okay? So those things are important. And driving my daughter to school every day, I can tell you that I don't think any one of us here is not concerned with protecting people's safety. But I do think I have an obligation to make sure that the process is a fair one to all of us in Miami-Dade County and to the constituents. So I want to be clear on that. And number two, with all due respect, I wish Tallahassee would have considered, and I remember when Representative Ron Reagan, yes, that was his name, Ron Reagan, passed the red light bill because people were dying, because people were taking red lights. And all of a sudden, it did become, and Mr. Chair, you are correct, there really is no expectation of privacy when you're driving the roads of Miami-Dade County, whether it's these cameras or other cameras. So I'm going to vote for it, but I think I have a right to ask those questions. I know that the lobbyists for the company are here, and I hope they take that into consideration as they move forward. I hope the county attorney, when you sit down with Namita, and procurement does need to be reformed, period, you look into that. And finally, I don't read the articles. Don't take it personally, Mr. Hanks, but I don't think we should ever be making decisions. We're worried about, what a writer says about something if we truly believe in it. But I'm going to vote for it.
Okay. Regalado. Well, Bastian, because you haven't spoken yet, and then Regalado.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I believe that we all agree that this item is about the safety of our children, but I'd like someone to answer these questions, to put them on the record, because there are some critics out there that talk about equitable enforcement. I'd like someone to go on record telling me how this is going to be addressed. Because critics argue that cameras usually impact low-income drivers. So how will you address these issues? The second thing that I'd like answered on the record are privacy concerns. Some believe and argue that cameras infringe on drivers' privacy by capturing the license plate and also other information. How will you address that? It's privacy concerns that people have out there. How will you allay their fears about that? Potential misuse. Concern exists about camera being used for revenue generation rather than safety. We know it's about safety, but the concerns are out there. How will you be sure to address this on record? And lastly, false positives. We had cameras in the past, and then some people were wrongly ticketed. So how will you address the false positives? So I'd like someone to go on record and responding to those issues. Thank you.
Tom Buchanan, through the chair once again. I'll answer these questions the best I can. I can't answer all your questions. I'm not an expert. I'm not a lawyer. We don't have any cameras like this in the unincorporated Miami-Dade jurisdiction, so our officers don't have experience working with it. So all I can tell you is what I've been told and what I've read in the law. As far as targeting specific neighborhoods, as I indicated earlier, the company, in conjunction with us, will do studies in neighborhoods. We want to try to prioritize where most of the violations are occurring, so that we can change behavior. So there will be studies done, and whatever they reveal, that's where we'll put the cameras. So if really neighborhoods won't come into consideration unless there's a problem there.
False positives?
Again, I'm not familiar with how the process is. My understanding is, after talking with other jurisdictions that have it, and a representative from the company, is first of all the company is going to screen a lot of the citations. They're going to throw out a lot of them that they feel are, you can't read the tag, different things like that. Only the ones they feel are legitimate, possible concerns, those will be given to our officers for our officers to evaluate and determine if a violation has occurred. My understanding is there will be a process if you feel like, just like if you're issued a ticket by an officer and you feel it was unjustified, there'll be a civil process where you can go and be heard.
Thank you. So I did support this item, and I'm going to support it again. What I would require, I would ask, is that you come back to us, once implementation starts, to give us reports on how it's doing and then what the community response is.
Sure.
Thank you. I just want to make a few points on the record, and I'm not going to rehash what a lot of you have already said. And I understand that these are passionate topics, right? Whenever we talk about public safety, and I want to thank Commissioner Hardiman for talking about, the trigger words that we have a tendency to use up here. But just for clarity's sake, I will say this. I understand that it is politically expedient to say that whoever votes against this is against the safety of children, but I personally take issue with it. I happen to be the only person in the history of Miami-Dade County that served as a school board member for 2 terms and has been elected to the Miami-Dade County Commission. So just as a point of reference, I know that we all sit here as equals, but I happen to be someone that dedicated 6 years of my life to the school board and to that system. So I think just based on that, you might want to give me the respect of not accusing me of not being for the safety and well-being of children, because I find that disturbing. That being said, you don't have to serve on the school district to care about kids, but since I did serve on the school district, I do know a little bit about this topic, which is why I brought up the issue. So just so that you all are on the same page, first of all, flashing lights. I came to this board, you can go back to the meetings, I came to this board first in 2010, then in 2012, then in 2013, and in 2015 as a school board member because of the issue of the flashing lights and the signalization around the schools in Miami-Dade County. The system does not work. Many of our schools, I would say over 60% of our schools, have flashing lights on teacher workday, during spring break, during summer, and I actually live by 3 of those schools. So I see it today, even as a non-school board member. And we beg the county to help us fix these issues. And it still hasn't been rectified. We actually brought to the county evidence that the failure to work on this actually hurt us as a district because people do not know when kids are there and when kids are not there. So if you live in the neighborhood, you just kind of take it as you go. Number 1. Number 2, we mentioned when children are hurt. I will tell you again to talk to University of Miami and talk to the school district. And I just want to say the fact that the school district has not opined on this does not mean that this will not impact them and at some point they will not opine. I do not think that we can say that because our partner, because they are our partners, because our partner hasn't sent a letter against or our partner hasn't come here to speak, that we do not have an obligation to reach out to our partner and do everything that we can to ensure their participation, just as a general rule. But that being said, when these things finally go up is when people start complaining about them and start writing to their school board members about it. But that being said, I would like to know when this is all said and done, when these tickets are issued, if the $5 that are given to the crossing guards are actually used in the schools where those tickets were issued for crossing guards. Because I'm going to tell you that one of the big issues that we have is a tremendous disparity as to what schools have crossing guards and what schools do not. Because the other issue that we have, again, post-Parkland, is that the school district was forced, again by state law as an unfunded mandate, to place police officers in every single school. So chances are that that $5 is not going to go to a crossing guard. It's actually going to go to pay the salary of the Parkland issued police officer that's going to be there. So you might want to circle back on that and see if those $5 actually go to adding crossing guards, because there are many schools that do not have crossing guards and only have one police officer. There are also municipalities that provide police service to those schools because there are no crossing guards. There are also a deterrent that many schools use by placing a vehicle, an empty police vehicle outside schools. And that actually has been proven to be a deterrent. And we have facts on that, and we have provided that to the county and to our municipal partners. So when we say that having a police officer there giving a ticket is only going to impact that one person, we actually have statistics to prove that that's not the case. That in fact, if people see a police officer at a school, they will all slow down, even though we know that pragmatically that police officer cannot give the ticket. And we have that statistical proof by just parking an empty police car outside the school, and that in and of itself works as a deterrent for people. As to the $12, let's see if they use it to actually fix the properties. I mean, I would assume that one of the things that we want to do is ensure that the traffic around our schools flows better and that our kids are safe. So you might want to circle back and see if the money that's given to the school district is used to pay salaries or if it's actually used to fix the school sites where we have the most egregious issues and where people are getting the majority of these tickets. And finally, you might want to follow up after the fact on where these cameras are placed, because my history with these cameras has proven to me over and over, and it will happen again, that they are placed in affluent areas, because that's where people can play these tickets. So there is red light cameras were later placed everywhere else, but there was an issue as to collection. So you will see that these particular cameras will be placed more often in affluent areas. So I would ask this board, I think the idea of getting a report on this and seeing where these things actually landed, where this money is going, how this is actually impacting safety. Is it making our schools safer? Because if you look at the statistics, and I sat there for 6 years and we talked about this ad nauseum, where children are hurt is not at the school zone. It is a block or 2 blocks from the school zone. And that is why the school district and this board focuses so much attention on pedestrian safety around the entire area and bike safety. And finally, Madam Mayor, you might want to tie this to Vision Zero. If this is what we're talking about children getting hurt in intersections, it would be inside Vision Zero. So that's another, we actually do this work and we actually have that data, and that data is not provided here because it would not be in the benefit of this item to provide Vision Zero data here as to where these incidents actually occur. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to address my colleagues for a second. It's interesting because I was thinking back and I turned around and talked to my staff. It's interesting how people hear, because I fancy myself a fairly effective communicator. Now, I know that I didn't actually say that any of my colleagues didn't care about kids if they didn't vote for this item. That was never said. It's so interesting to me that was heard. But that might be an internal conviction to how you're hearing it, but that's not actually what was said. So I owe no apology and I offer none for my comments. That's the first thing. The second thing is I respect everybody on this dais and what brought them to this dais. No one gets a special deference because of prior service. I served as the mayor, the 3rd largest city of this county, responsible for all of its public safety for 8 years. I don't get special deference because I know those issues more intimately. My vote isn't weighed more. So I respect service on the school board. I respect service in the Florida Senate. But you don't get an attaboy for that. That's not what happens. Secondly, thirdly, the idea that this is going to go in affluent areas, it's done based on numbers. Where people, the reason they do speeding tests or surveys, they want to see where people are actually speeding. If they're speeding more in affluent areas, that's where they'll go. If they're speeding more in less affluent areas, that's where they go, because the idea is to stop the people where they're speeding. This isn't complicated. The item's been moved by the chair and by the vice chair. It's been seconded by
as amended.
As amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Show the item being reported favorably. Thank you. What's next?
11A1.
11A1. Cohen Higgins. Steinberg first? Steinberg.
I polled to vote no.
Okay, you just voted no, okay.
District 8, District 4.
Okay,
Same with me. I just pulled it to vote no. Thank you.
okay. This is, someone move the item then.
I'll move it.
11A1, it's been moved by the vice chair, seconded by the chair. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Nay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Show it, report it favorably. Okay.
11A6.
11A6. This, I think I pulled this. Yes. This is what? Which one is this? Where's the? This one.